Hi everyone! In this video, we are going to pick up some herbs from the grocery store and grow them back into full-size plants. This will enable us to harvest all the herbs we want, and we can do these actions repeatedly, continually cloning new plants and creating ourselves a lifetime supply of our favorite herbs. So let's do this. First things first, we need to buy plants that can regrow. This means we are looking for full cuttings. We want stems and branches, not just leaves, as it is way easier to regrow plants from stem cuttings. I've got a few different herbs here, and the first one we'll look at is sage. It looks like we have a few stems in this pack, which is great. Our goal is to put those stems in water and wait for them to grow roots. Simple water propagation. Ideally, we're looking to have a few inches of stem, and we want to submerge the bottom inch or so of our cuttings. We don't want any leaves to be submerged as they will rot, so I will be cutting across each stem so that we have a fresh cut and removing any lower leaves. This simple process is what we are going to be doing for all of our herbs. Looking at our rosemary, once again we've got a bunch of stems to choose from. We can easily rip off leaves to reveal the stem. And again, I'm giving these stems fresh cuts before submerging them in water. Lastly, we have basil, the most popular herb to grow and one of the easiest plants to care for. We also have multiple stem cuttings in these packages. There is a nuance to basil though that we need to be aware of, which is their flowers. Basil flowers at the end of its life cycle, and the flowering process actually makes the leaves taste bitter. So we want to avoid flowering stems, or at the very least, remove the tops where they are flowering. This will force our basil plants to stay in a vegetative state and keep pushing to grow more stems and more leaves. Now that we've got our cuttings all prepared, we can get them situated in a reservoir with water. As I mentioned, we want to submerge the bottom inch or so of each cutting. A small glass of some sort where your stem can reach the bottom will work great. Alternatively, net cups, if you have them, also work great. You can see the water line in these reservoirs is up above the bottom of each net cup. Our plants will have access to the water, but the net cup will stop the cuttings from falling too deep into the reservoir. If you want to use some sort of rooting hormone, you can, but it's not necessary. These plants should all propagate just fine, only using water. I'm using water from my tap that I've done nothing to treat. Once we've set our plants up to propagate, we need to put them somewhere. I like to give my cuttings indirect light for most of the day. The real key is to monitor your plants each day, and if they're drying out, give them less light. We rejoin our plants 11 days later, and we've got some great progress to show. Looking at our basil, all of our cuttings have roots emerging. You can see the cuttings, which I applied rooting hormone to, have grown longer roots, but as I said, these products aren't necessary. Our topwater only plants are doing great and are only a day or two behind the faster plants. Once we've got some decent roots growing, maybe a centimeter to an inch long, we can move our plants to a permanent growing setup. If soil is your thing, bury the roots and keep your plants well watered for a few days as they adjust to the soil. I'm more of a hydroponics guy, and I'm going to keep these basil plants going in glass jars. I'm going to get each plant set up with its own net cup and reservoir, using clay pebbles to support the plants. I'm also going to go ahead and start providing nutrition to these plants. Checking in on our rosemary cuttings, they've all died. These things happen. I've cloned rosemary with these exact methods before, but not this time. I've had more success with thicker stem cuttings, so maybe look for those if possible. On day 18, we rejoin our sage cuttings. Once again, they've rooted nicely with and without the rooting hormone. These roots are really starting to branch out, and now would be a fine time to move them to their final homes. I'm also going to keep these in a hydroponic system, which is as simple as adding nutrition to their reservoirs. Checking in on our basil plants here, they've been getting lots of light for a week now and are adapting well. You can see that they're starting to look a bit perkier and showing some signs of growth. We do have a number of leaves that don't look great though. Some are wilting in spots, curling, looking beat up. This is normal. Don't sweat it. The plant used energy and nutrients stored in those leaves to propagate its new roots. These leaves will never really recover, but that's alright. As the plant grows and puts out new leaves, they'll be green, vibrant, and healthy like we want them to be. Because our initial cuttings were already flowering, I'm going to be pruning early and often, topping each branch when a new node appears. This will stop any new flowers from growing and help my plant to bush out rather than growing straight up like a Christmas tree. At this point, we've got plants that are alive and well. All we need to do is maintain them. This can be as simple as keeping our plants hydrated and fed. In my simple hydroponic system, I'm topping up the jars every so often as needed. We want to make sure there is always water and nutrient in each reservoir, but filling them only partially so that some roots are still exposed to air. Beyond that, we can harvest any leaves or stems we want. Strategic pruning will help us to shape the plants and get continued harvests. Moving forward, we can continue to take new cuttings and start new plants. In this way, we'll always have fresh herbs available. It's a simple, fun process, and having fresh herbs available will really elevate your meals. The taste of fresh harvests cannot be overstated. Best of luck trying this. Let me know your thoughts on growing herbs in the comments below. Do you also regrow from cuttings? How long have you kept your propagation cycles going? Thanks a lot for watching, and as always, happy harvesting!